Here in episode of Chordplay. This is the Chords of Loudness, and of course we're going to be talking about Akira Takasaki, and I did feature Akira in a 3-for-all, I guess that was a couple of years ago, but after I made that lesson I had some requests to feature more of Loudness's music and Akira's music, and specifically, you know, his chords and rhythm work, which is what this lesson is going to focus on. Loudness is a very important and influential hard rock and metal band, and they hit the scene in 1981. They formed in Osaka, Japan, and went on to become one of the most prolific, you know, hard rock and metal bands ever. They've had 26 studio albums, 3 EPs, 8 live albums. Akira's had some solo albums. You know, he's definitely just this machine of hard rock and metal music. And he's a very interesting guitarist, you know, very aggressive, you know, with his picking, lots of energy, lots of conviction, you know, when he plays. Dials in like a really biting, you know, distorted tone, grabs the guitar and just starts melting your face with all these great, you know, riffs and licks and solos and everything. You know, phenomenal player. And with a band that has 26 studio albums, there's a lot of music to go through, and there are some albums I feel like that are kind of overlooked, or they just didn't really, you know, seem to capture much of an audience. Definitely in Japan, you know, Loudness has been popular in Japan the entire time. But in the States, you know, it's kind of, you know, come and gone. They definitely had a big explosion in the 80s. And they have a cult following, you know, here in America. But the album Disillusion, which is actually the album before Thunder in the East. And Disillusion has the Exploder, you know, like a guitar solo, kind of Akira's answer to Eruption. And also the album Soldier of Fortune, which is a few years later. But Soldier of Fortune's awesome too. There's great rhythms, great solos, you know, hard-hitting, you know, hard rock album, really good stuff. The opening, that's Crazy Nights from Thunder in the East, and I definitely remember that music video, you know, on MTV back in the day. But it's this crushing, you know, hard rock riff like this. You know, banging between, it's like this partial F sharp minor 7 right here. And then you're going to reach up and grab this. So that's going to convert that. You can think of that as like a B5 over F sharp, or you could also think of that as an F sharp sus4, you know, with that B note in there. But you're basically going between this, you know, partial A and partial B. But you're using that low F sharp right there as the root, like this. And he really digs in, you know, really pick hard. And then right there, you know, bounce between this E5, F sharp 5 to G, and you want to slide that up to G, go back to F sharp, and then hit the low E open, and then repeat the whole thing like this. Okay, up next is Crazy Doctor from the Disillusion album, and it's something like this. Cool song. Right there, you're banging on this E5, you know, power chord like this. And then you want to come down this single note riff, you know, G, F sharp, E to D. And then when you hit that D note, go to a D power chord right there and then bang on that. And then do this G, F sharp, D to C sharp. And right there, that's kind of like a C sharp flat 5 right there. Like a C sharp 7 flat 5, because you got the C sharp and the B, and then that flat 5 right there is that G natural, and then that converts to C major 7 right there, and then you hear these power chords, you know, E to B, C to G, and then you loop all that again. Danger of Love from the Soldier of Fortune album. This is really cool. Totally reminds me of Dokken. And it starts clean and then it gets heavy and dirty, something like this. Starting with that A power chord right there, and it's the same whether it's clean or the heavier kind of dirty part, but A power chord, and you're flirting with this B note, so it's going to change that to an A sus2. And then right there, that's basically an A minor flat 6. You're kind of shifting in and grabbing that C and that F note right there. And go back to that pedaling, you know, kind of open A. Playing that A minor flat 6 and also playing this A sus2 flat 6 just for a second there, you know, grabbing that B note. And then you're grabbing that, and that's just the A minor 6. So we've, you know, raised that flat 6 to the regular 6 there, that F sharp. And then right there you're also grabbing that B again. That's an A6 sus2 technically. So we're doing this slow mutation of those chords, which is really common. You can hear other songs, you know, Modern Day Cowboy by Tesla, a bunch of Dokken, Rat. There's a whole bunch of bands that have these twisting, you know, chord riffs like this. So right there you've got this. And then you want to move up and grab this G power chord and slide that to an A. And then an F power chord to G, and then do the whole thing over again. Really cool riff. Okay, up next is Rock and Roll Gypsy from Hurricane Eyes. This is really cool. Something like this. You know, really cool. There's a lot going on too. So we're moving into the C power chord right here. And then you're hearing that C sus2 right there, that stretch. So you're kind of playing with the C sus2, C5, and then also C major 7 right there. Really cool. And then do that again. And then you hear this little walk down. And then you hear it move to A, basically, right there. So we have this. So it's almost the same thing, just with an A root. So now that's A7 sus4, and then A minor 7, and then A7 sus2. So it's really crafty the way he just twisted that from C to A. Really cool. And then move to F right there, like an F power chord. So right there it's like an F5, you're moving up and grabbing this F6. And it's also F major 7 right there on the top. It's like a little hiccup with the rhythm in there too. And then move to a G power chord. And then basically mimic the first riff again. But now we're in G. So I'm just doing that one finger power chord there, and then move up and you're grabbing this. And then he does this really tasty fill right there. So it's like an implied C major 7 right there. Really cool. And then it's kind kind of implying like G right there before it moves back to C to start the verse. Really cool riff though. Up next is Hungry Hunter, which is also from Hurricane Eyes, and this is really different and really unusual, but I like this riff. Really cool. So we're basically starting with this, and he's kind of sliding from nowhere into this kind of partial B minor. And you could actually fret that without your thumb, but I think he might actually be using his thumb on that root note there. You could fret this a couple different ways if you don't like using your thumb like that. But that's kind of what I just grabbed, doing that riff. And right there you want to slide that partial B minor to a partial A. And I'm really just leaving my third finger on the D and then shifting to my middle finger. So that's tricky. It's almost like a little magic trick happening right there where you're, changing positions, but you're also changing, one of your fingers too. And that's going to set you up for moving that A to a G. So you're moving from B minor from A into that G, and then you're going to do this little shift slide from F to F sharp 5. And I'm also grabbing the root note there. I'm not honestly sure if Akira's doing that, but it sounds cool in there. He might just be, grabbing that F sharp right there. And then you hear this, B power chord move over to an F sharp, and then back to that B power chord. And then you're hearing this D5 twist to an A over C sharp to an A octave. Really cool. Okay, the last example is also from Disillusion. This is Aries Lamint, and also, Akira's, definitely well known for these punchy and aggressive, hard rock and, distorted, guitar solos and rhythms and riffs and all this stuff. But he also does a bunch of clean stuff too with these really interesting chords, and I didn't really feature any of that in this lesson until now. And this is pretty simple, but it's actually a great workout or warm-up, for your fret hand, which is why I wanted to include it. So it's pretty basic compared to some of the stuff we've already looked at, but it's like this, and I'm just playing it finger style. And then the song kind of, begins right there. So it's kind of the intro, and we're actually starting with this. And that's F sharp minor 7, played this way. So there's your 7, that E note. And he's doing this kind of backward or reverse, arpeggio pattern. And then you want to move down to this, and that's basically B7 over F sharp. And then move to that, and that's basically B minor 7 over F sharp. And then get rid of that D note and just bar right there, and there's F sharp minor. So it's really just a simple, 4-chord progression. And the note's just walking down, chromatically there on the B string, but that creates this really, challenging fretting part for your fret hand because you're using all of your fret hand fingers too to play it. And I'm just a sucker for guitar parts like that. It kind of cruises between different tonalities and very simple, but very effective too. That's going to wrap this episode of Chordplay with the Chords of Loudness and taking a look at, Akira Takasaki's, rhythm and chord work. and very interesting, guitarist. I've definitely found a lot of things that I, really hadn't, heard or discovered before I made this lesson. And I definitely dove in a little bit deeper into the Disillusion album, revisited Soldier of Fortune, Hurricane Eyes, and some of these albums. And there's tons of music, and there's a whole bunch of loudness I haven't even heard. So I did think about, maybe trying to find some more recent music, but then I just fell into the classics and I fell into some of these songs, and it's like, yeah, I'm going to start with the early days. And if the feedback's good and you want more loudness, I could definitely, start including some of the more recent stuff too, because Akira is just a monster, player, great guitarist, just full of all these great ideas. So anyway, leave some feedback and comments. Please subscribe to Late Night Lessons, and I'll be back before you know it with more content and material. Thank you.